open. This is probably the last video I want to check out today. This is called this is why Blizzard would never ban add-ons, and I think it's just too late for them to ban add-ons. I think the majority of the player base probably uses add-ons, a lot of add-ons, you know, or not a lot, but at least a few, right? There's just so many quality of life add-ons that are there, you know, auto repairing, auto selling your grays, just like stuff like that, map add-ons. There's just like a lot of like quality of life add-ons out there, and I feel like they're just part of the game now, which is makes it unique. There's not many other MMOs that have add-ons, right? Like I know Final Fantasy 14 has like, they have a few add-ons, but technically you can get banned from them, right? They have like the DPS counter, ACT you can use, like that's kind of like details, but it's not as functional as like details. I feel like it's more advanced to use. You have to download like a software for it. Like a lot of these add-ons, you have to download software for it, which is like, it's not as accessible as just going to the Curse Forge and like, oh, it's all an add-on, right? Like there's G-Shade or Reshade or something where you can make the graphics look a little bit better, which is something that actually doesn't really exist in a WoW's add-ons. But other than that, I don't think there's many other MMOs out there that have add-ons, you know? Like Final Fantasy 14 is the only other MMO I play, but I don't think ESO has add-ons. I'm not sure though.
Last week, we called attention to the massive disruption to the Final Fantasy XIV top-end raid community over the use of add-ons in its raid environment, with their top D, Yoshi P, saying, look, if we have to design bosses around add-on usage, then why the hell should we bother? Which prompted a lot of outcry from our World of Warcraft viewers, as well as a lot of...
That's true. I think that's one of the reasons why I am not interested in playing Wrath Classic, because like, these fights, with the way add-ons have become, they make raiding a lot easier, especially old content. Like, for example, with Blood Queen Lanethal and ICC, that there's just going to be a weak aura telling you where to go and who to bite. Whereas before, when that came out, you had to really communicate, okay, maybe this will be the order we get in. Oh, bite me here, and then, oh, maybe we should bite this guy next. You know, it was actually something you had to communicate and figure out on the fly. Whereas now it's gonna be like, oh, step over here, fight this person, you know. So I think that's kind of make raiding not as enjoyable. And even with like Dragonflight, there's that too. Like on Terros, for example, there's that weak aura that tells you when you get the debuff or where to stand in the circle, like left or right. Oh, have you seen the cinematic dude who got hired by Blizz because cinematics were better than theirs? Wait, I think I have seen those. Is that the guy who made the like the Wrath of the Lich King? Oh, let's check this out. The Wrath of the Lich King. Oh yeah, I've seen these. Yeah, these trailers were sick. Blizzard hired him. Yeah, I remember watching this trailer. That trailer was sick, and also like I think he came out one with Wrath of the Lich King. Then he come on with Wrath too. That one was sick too.
People who follow the race to world first.
I'm happy Blizzard hired him
for a while. Why doesn't Blizzard ban add-ons outright? Especially when you look at the screens of a lot of players who are going into raiding or even going into PvP and seeing them filled with various...
my god, what the fuck is this? This isn't real. Oh my gosh. You know what this looks like? This looks like my UI whenever I start like in a new character and all my add-ons are activated. It's just like the whole screen's flooded. Holy wait, why does he have this is gotta be a joke. He has he has 3 raid frames. What? This is a joke. This has gotta be a joke. No way he actually plays like this. You can't even see his character. What is this? Oh, these are all his buffs. His chat is huge. This is funny. Yeah, some people's UIs are like this bad. It's crazy.
Add-ons changing the way the game is played. That's what we're going to look at today in association with a lot of people who make these add-ons. We're going to go over a brief history of add-ons in World of Warcraft.
Okay.
And why they can't just get rid of them all. Let's go.
I think I started using custom UIs in Wrath Lich King. Like, if you guys remember Kripparrian UI, I used Kripparrian's UI back in Wrath, and then all the way up until he quit WoW. And the Kripparrian UI was just a clean UI. And then Weak Auras came out, and it just totally revolutionized add-ons, I feel like. He's not allowed to post anything now? Oh, that's a bummer. His videos are really cool.
I want you to cast your minds back, if you can, if you were even alive at that time, to 2004. World of Warcraft has just come out. It is taking the online community.
Oh, I was young. 2004. I was young and I was 8 years old. I was probably playing. Not this. I don't even know what was out there in 2008. I was probably playing what my brother was playing, like Nintendo. Was Nintendo out in 2008? Or was it like PlayStation 2 or something? I don't remember.
A storm. It is sucking up millions of players year on year, and it's bringing them into a brand new way of looking at online RPGs.
Oh,
Add-ons
okay.
were always supported by Blizzard. And
yeah, a lot of like the high-end raiders have good UIs, so like just like use theirs, you know. Like I use like Now's UIs right now, which is like really clean.
why the hell not? We had no idea all those years back what add-ons could become. In fact, add-ons have been around for a long time, and they've always been kind of innocent.
This is Ian's UI from late vanilla. Interesting. I mean, this was 2004, right? So like, we've come a long way. I know that map UI is cool. This is interesting though. I actually don't think it's that bad. For 2004, this is actually, I mean, it's different. Maybe it's custom the way he likes it. But this is actually not a terrible UI for the time, right?
For the most part, not cheats, but changing things, adopting things, and doing things the community likes, while also taking pressure off the developers to create all those features for them. So Blizzard created World of Warcraft with add-on developers in mind, and for a long time, like 8 years, it was all pretty innocent, to be honest. If you think back to before add-ons became a thing, or if you weren't there, let me explain. They were always in use, but just not in the way you thought. People recognized very early on that boss design, certainly in the early days of Molten Core, were based on patterns and timers, as most bosses in video games are. In fact, they kind of need to be. It's worth remembering that a computer can detect every input everybody is making all the time, and can beat you 100% of the time if it chooses to. You think about a fighting game where you fought an enemy that was clearly unfair. Yes, the game is simply checking what you're pressing and countering it before you would humanly have a chance to do it. In fact, in all video games, bosses pretty much have to play badly in order to be beaten, intentionally.
Do you know what would be really cool if they had like an AI MMO, or like they use AI to like design their fights? So like as you like progress through the encounter, it's like health would change based on how much damage you're doing. Its mechanics would change based on how well you're performing and everything. That'd be really cool. I think AI, like I was thinking about this yesterday. I was on a walk in my neighborhood and I was like, what if they had AI that would take Google Earth data, like all the maps, locations and everything, you know, real world areas, like my neighborhood, for example, and they could import that data into a video game like Grand Theft Auto. So you could be like racing down your neighborhood, your streets, your city, and then it could have like, you know, shops randomly throughout the map. And that would just be really cool. Even like MMOs, they could do anything with like a big map. They could maybe import real data, like kind of how what game really is like the best at that right now? I think Microsoft Flight Simulator, doesn't that use like real weather patterns, right, based on where you are? Somebody's doing that? Oh no way! I was thinking about that. Like AI could just totally. It sounds so easy. Yeah, just like tell the AI what to do, but I have no idea how you would go about doing that. But that would be really cool.
By design. So players in World of Warcraft started to notice, yeah, okay, this guy does this at a certain time. What we can do is start a stopwatch outside of the game and track that so that we can have this audible boss mod system going on in the early days of TeamSpeak and Ventrilo, where we were calling them out with physical stopwatches in hand as to when mechanics were going to happen, and that's how the early guilds did it. Blizzard, of course, recognized this and started adding things called APIs. APIs are simply ways the game outputs information that is usable by other developers in order to turn it into something more legible, something easier. Changing your combat log was a great one back in vanilla to show you what type of damage you were getting in a nice simplistic way, how you died, things like that. And of course, we started the beginnings of bigwigs and deadly boss mods, where the stopwatches were taken from the physical world
Oh, he's laser scanning his city and putting it in one of the newer game software. That's really cool. Yeah, like if you could like go into Unreal Engine 5 or something, and then just like import this data that you get from an AI, and then bang, you have the map all set up.
World and put into the game. But the Blizzard already started to draw the line, certainly in 2005. These add-ons were utilizing the tools that Blizzard gave them, and over the years, more and more information was given out to the players to use, as well as for Blizzard's own usage, such as the Armory or the Battle.net app. That information is going somewhere and can be used by the players. In 2005, an add-on called Decursive started to show its ugly head.
Decursive.
Now, some of you may still use Decursive, but it does not work the way it used to work, certainly back in my boomer days of playing World of Warcraft. Decursive, in the way it used to work, would automatically detect everybody in the raid and figure out if they had a debuff that could be dispelled by you. Not only that, you could make a macro called /decursive, and you could spam this one button. And what this one button would do would automatically seek out the players that had a debuff that you could dispel and dispel them without you having to target them, look at your raid frames.
Oh, that's OP. That's OP. If I was a healer, I would love that. Luckily, I don't have to do that, though.
Anything whatsoever. Think about that now. You could literally spam any button on your keyboard that you would assign to this macro, and it would just dispel everybody automatically. You didn't have to do a goddamn thing. You didn't even have to know
using
what the name of
TVC
your
rating? Yeah, that's OP.
magic removal spell was. It would do it automatically for you. This is where Blizzard drew the first line. Hey, we're totally fine with you guys making add-ons. That's fine. We're okay with that.
That's so broken.
But we do not want add-ons to play the game for you. Tracking a boss timer, sure, you're doing it anyway with a stopwatch, not a big deal. But once you've figured out how to let something play the game for you, that's no good to us.
Yeah.
We don't want to do that. And they broke the Decursive
That's
add-on.
good. That's a
Funny
good thing.
story, I actually got promoted in the first time I stepped up to a high-end guild during their Blackwing Lair trial run for me. I had the most dispels on the Cremagus fight. I pressed one button the entire encounter, and I got promoted off the back of that, because they did not know the power of Decursive. I was a little annoyed when that
You're like, this guy's so good. You see how the spells he has?
add-on got broken because it got me promoted into a guild. I passed my trial phase very, very quickly, thanks to Decursive.
Yo, if they had that for interrupts in Mythic Plus, and just like this thing hits up, this thing pops up. Oh yeah, interrupt this target this mob, interrupt that spell, and then what it will do is it's like a weak aura. So it will tell your whole team when to do it, so you don't overlap interrupts. So like, oh, tank interrupt this, then the next cast, oh, the warrior can interrupt this. Oh, druid interrupt this. That's what I need, because people in my Mythic Plus dungeons, sometimes like the kicks are just non-existent.
Cursive. So thank you, early add-on developers. And from that point on, up until Wrath of the Lich King, people were making pretty innocuous yet slightly better add-ons. We had really in-depth websites that were working on things before Discord even existed, such as Elitist Jerks, which Ian Hazacostas was a part of at the time, who were looking for more and more advanced ways of figuring things out. And during Wrath of the Lich King, there was a big launch of an add-on that took the raiding world, at least, by storm. And that was called Power Auras. Power Auras is very, very easy to see in a lot of raid kill videos. If you go back to Wrath of the Lich King and Insidia, you'll see nearly every player using Power Auras. It's spread through the community by wildfire. Now, what did it actually do?
I forget.
Well, it's not weak auras. It was the early sort of middling stepchild. It was the baby that was left up in the attic version of weak auras. Essentially, all it did was allow you to track things like buffs and debuffs, such as what bosses would put on you, and give you a different graphical option to deal with it. That was it. You could make a giant graphic that indicated you had the debuff of death that you had to run out of the raid with. Very simple stuff, and Blizzard was okay with this because you were just utilizing the information the game was giving you anyway, just changing it graphically. Not much different than the people making fancy UIs, using crazy things like Ice Hood and all those kinds of things of fun.
Oh, I remember I had this add-on. This add-on was so stupid. Ice HUD. I had Ice HUD. Oh, wait, we can look at my UI. Hold up. We can look at one of my UIs from back in the day. Let me see if I can find it. I have an old YouTube channel. Oh yeah, here we go. Check out this UI. Okay, so this is when I used Kripparrian UI, and this UI was so clean. This video is so old that it takes forever to load. It's 10 years ago. Okay, this was Companion UI. Clean as fuck, dude. Clean as fuck for the time. CUI was so good. I would still use this UI to this day if I don't know. This UI was just so revolutionary for its time. Script UI was so good. And then before that, oh wait, I had. Oh wait, actually no, this is actually still pretty good. Yeah, Companion UI was so nice. I think I still had a Companion UI. Okay, this was kind of like Companion UI. Was this Companion UI? I think this was Crypt UI. But I just had the map. It's actually, never mind. I wish you know what I really wish I do and did? I wish I took screenshots back in the day. Like, I never took screenshots in WoW, and I really regret that now. Because I could go back and look at like my old UIs, old achievements, you know, getting level 70 or 80 for the first time. You know, I think that's something I should do more. Even in like real life, like taking pictures. Like I don't really take pictures at all. Like taking pictures, I think is nice, just so you can like look back and maybe reminisce a little bit. Oh yeah, that's the thing. If you have a new computer, you kind of lose that stuff unless you put it on a different hard drive.
Of yesteryear.
But I said when I
so Blizzard was fine
first
with this,
discovered
and every
add-ons.
raider made their raiders pretty much install this because one of the most common.
One thing I never got into was floating combat texts add-ons. Like this stuff, I never got into that at all. I know a lot of people back in the day, even some people still to this day use those add-ons that like change the text. I think the text was really good. I kind of like the old like classic floating combat text is just the best, but even the retail one now is pretty nice.
Common things, and I remember this clearly at XTD Constructor, was a fight that had individuals have to run out of the raid, very similar to Baron.
This is just all his buffs. Oh, I had this map add-on. We just saw that. Yep, everyone needed aggro. Back then, you needed an aggro add-on too. This UI is kind of weird.
Geddon put "You are the bomb," and instead of waiting for that debuff to pop up, would actually physically run out of the raid. And Blizzard was okay with this. It's not playing the game for you, it's just displaying the same information in a slightly different way. But towards the end of Wrath of the Lich King, things got a little bit egregious because some very, very clever mathematicians.
What came out in Wrath of the Lich King? Gear Score came out in Wrath of the Lich King. It got hacked because our healer officer got all of us a add-on, turned out to have a keylogger in it. Oh, oof. Yikes. Yeah, some add-ons you gotta be careful. Like any software, you gotta kind of be careful about getting. Like, I feel like going on GitHub and downloading software is a little risky, depending on what it is. Like, I downloaded stuff on GitHub, and it's always like Microsoft on Windows, like, yo, are you sure you want to download this? That sucks, though. I remember in Diablo 3 days, I got hacked because Diablo fans got hacked, and I had the same password for my Diablo fans account and my login for Blizzard. So I got hacked when Diablo 3 came out, because that's what they did, right? It's smart. And then I stole like 1 million gold out of the guild bank, and then all my gear was gone. And my guild leader messaged me on TeamSpeak or whatever the hell back in the day, and they're like, "Dude, what the fuck?" So I missed raiding for a week till Blizzard got my account back. Yeah, no, back in the day it was sketchy, and I didn't have an authenticator too. So I know back in the day, like I think, like he was like, "Dude, we're requiring authenticators now." And I think back in the day you had to pay for authenticators. Remember that? And you had to pay for the 2-factor authorization. They gave you like I think they gave you like a little keychain at first. Then they had like the Blizzard Authenticator app, which I have now, and which actually I don't have to use it at all anymore, unless like I log in from a different computer, which is like, never.
Magicians figured out that they could utilize the current APIs that Blizzard had implemented.
Oh, I remember this came out, I got banned. It just told you exactly where to stand and stuff. I remember this got banned. I never used this, but I remember this was like really controversial at the time.
To actually project images onto the game world. Now, you will be aware that add-ons, of course, simply put images on your UI. They don't do anything to the game world itself, it just displays your information in a different way. AVR actually physically put textures and things into the game, onto the floor, onto the walls, and it was so clever that it could track things that you were supposed to keep your eyes open and avoid, such as Festergut's bombs flying around everywhere or Syndragosa's ice tombs, and it would tell you
This fight was so fun.
where you could and could not stand to simply nullify this.
Oh my god, that's OP. Look at, there's like indicators here. Right? Because if you like stack, like if you stack too close to the other person, didn't you like both die? I think that's what happened. Well, you couldn't stack with other people because you would spread it and then you would tomb too many people. But I think if you stack too close or on top of somebody else, then you would both die.
This mechanic. Now, Blizzard obviously recognized at the time that the ability of players to literally project images.
I remember being in the tomb, and it was so, being in the ice tomb
Stand to simply nullify
was so
this
scary.
mechanic. Now, Blizzard obviously recognized at
Because
the time
like it just
that
like it just zooms in your character. Like this is all you see. You can't see anything else. You can't really zoom out. All you see is like yourself.
Ability of players to.
And then I targeted the ice team. This is like the point of view. And then you have to pray that your teammates don't kill your ice team too fast or too slow, because you take damage while you're in here too.
Literally project
I was just like, I don't know what's going on, and I would like they would break me out. I was like, oh, okay.
Images onto the game world was a very bad thing, and that could lead into some really dangerous territory that was already becoming
This fight was so fun.
readily apparent after power auras and things had started to rear their ugly heads. So Blizzard stepped in and made sure that that was no longer possible. Again, this is an add-on that kind of crosses that line between you taking the same information the game is giving you and turning it into something that is physically changing the world, making the game too easy and very difficult for the devs to work with. So that's a lot of fairness right there.
That's
then we get
that's understandable.
Then we get fancier. As we move through the expansions, weak auras does start to appear, and the weak auras.
I think weak auras totally revolutionized add-ons. Like I remember, I came back to WoW after not playing for a few years. I forget when. But I think they came out. I just didn't use them because I feel like I didn't need to use them. But then it came back, especially in Shadowlands, because I didn't play BFA at all. And I was before BFA. I forget. I quit early Legion. I played BFA for a little bit, and then I really came back in Shadowlands. And then Weak Auras was just the dominant add-on, you know, in Shadowlands. Like every like mythic raid boss, there was a Weak Aura for what to do. You know, there's weak auras for add-ons, for buff tracking. Weak auras is just like so flexible.
With this video, and they're fantastic, and I want to say a big thanks to them for being very open with us with how these things work, and more importantly, how things can change going forward, and we'll get there shortly. And now Blizzard has a problem. Weak auras isn't actually doing anything egregious. It's using the information that's readily available in the game, and it's just displaying it in a different way. But the devs start to run into problems as these things are getting a lot more powerful than they previously considered, meaning they have to up their game.
I kind of wish that they would ban weak auras in Classic WoW. So you have to play Classic WoW kind of the way it was. Because weak auras just makes, like, Classic WoW is easy in general. And then you just throw add-ons at it and weak auras at it and do Classic rating. It's got to be a joke. Like I said with ICC, Blood Queen Lanethel, the whole fight is just going to be a weak aura mess. Cinder Ghost is going to be weak aura'd out. Every single fight is just going to have weak auras that make it so easy. Traveling Crusader, it's going to be crazy.
Back to Final Fantasy XIV for a second, which has a strict no add-on policy. It's very quickly and easy to see if you follow any of the boss fights, including the current Omega Ultimate that is being tackled by a lot of players, how weak auras would destroy those encounters. And in fact, we have a prime example. If we look at this Omega fight, and I know for
Omega.
Our World of Warcraft viewers, this will look a little confusing.
Yeah, I actually really want to get back into Final Fantasy. I really want to get into raiding. It's just the MSQ takes forever. I'm like halfway through Stormblood, and I have a few hundred hours in the game. I really want to get more back into Final Fantasy. I just wish it didn't require a subscription.
But all I want you to do is look at the debuffs that are present on the players in phase 1 of this fight. And what you'll see is just a series of numbers. Now, what's about to happen in the next couple of minutes is extraordinarily difficult. This is an ultimate encounter after all, and
players are splitting into 2 groups based on the random numbers distribution and player roles. Okay.
They are the most difficult encounters in MMOs at the moment. And that is all going to be dealt with by the players based on numbers.
Wait, do you think? Wait, he's saying this is harder than Mythic rating? I know that's controversial. I wonder if he thinks that. I think it is, honestly. This fight, I think it took how long for it to kill? Like one fight took, I think, a few weeks, whereas like, you know, raiding in WoW, it took like, you know, usually it's like a week to kill the whole raid.
Once these numbers are thrown out, it is then entirely down to the players to figure out what to do with that information, including reorientating themselves, splitting themselves into 2 different groups, which will randomly change depending on the number you're assigned on a pull-by-pull basis, and then deal with the very difficult mechanics that are going on. And they have to do this very, very quickly.
Yeah, I really want to try raiding out. I want to try Savage raiding out in Final Fantasy. I really do.
And all of that is decided by numbers. Now we have a great comparison to how weak auras and very powerful add-ons change the nature of encounters depending on who has access to them, and really backs up what Yoshi P was talking about. Let's go back to Archimonde Mythic. We had an epic...
I didn't do this fight, but I remember my friend was, and he was saying this fight sucks. He was saying, like, it's a really hard fight. We have a few hundred pulls on it, and he was in a good guild too, but I think this was one of, like, the big end game bosses and raid bosses like Ragnaros was in Firelands, where it's a wall for a lot of guilds. It's really difficult.
Big showdown going on. Paragon versus Method. Everybody was tracking who was going to get a legendary ring. Paragon managed to get their legendary ring during the reset. Both guilds are working on the last boss. Both guilds are at the absolute pinnacle of their ability. Who's going to come out first? Well, Method eventually clinched it. It's only a few days later when other
Damn, look at all those hunters in the top.
guilds kill it that the videos are released. Remember, this predates the live stream era. And what we see is something very, very interesting happen with one of the mechanics called Wrought Chaos. Wrought Chaos is a very simple mechanic. People are marked in pairs, and they will shoot a laser between each other. If people are caught in between those lasers, they take a huge amount of damage and potentially die. And if 2 of them get caught, then you just die straight away. Very simple mechanic. Now, here's where our good friend Just Wait and Co. come in. Just Wait, a current member of the tech team on Echo, but a previous World First Raider himself, and also a contributor towards this video. They managed to figure out an add-on. Method managed to...
What does this look like? This looks like a traffic map or something. Oh, what's that game? Oh, excuse me. There's like a game where you have to, like, do a puzzle like this, and you have to get all the lines together. I forget what it's called. That looks crazy, though.
Figure out, using the radar system, how they could simply nullify this entire difficult mechanic by simply having...
That's so crazy. And I'm guessing it just, like, glows red or something if you're if there's a line that's out of place, if it's gonna overlap with somebody.
Having the radar detect who was paired, draw a line between them, and then also tell those players if somebody was in between them. That line would change to red. If your line is red, you need to shuffle your feet a little bit until it goes blue. And if it's blue...
That's crazy. I didn't know this. That's nuts. Yeah, I'm sure that got banned. I'm sure that got banned. This is the kill vid, so maybe the Blizzard was like, hey, this doesn't count. You guys fucking cheated.
You're fine. You can stand still. This enabled Method to nullify this entire mechanic while just pumping out DPS into the boss and barely having to move. Vice versa, though. Vice versa, Paragon did not have access to the same thing. In fact, they did it in what would be considered a Final Fantasy XIV style. Instead, they had an add-on that just assigned numbers. That was it. Through 1 through 20. That's it. All it did was do that. And then they had to come up with a dance, which is how a lot of these things are solved in FF14. They had to position themselves accordingly to make sure that these lines would...
Oh, wow. I see. So that makes sense to just get into, like, a line based on their number. Oh, wow. So this is significantly harder than what Method did. You actually have to play the game here and organize and figure it out on yourself. And they came up with this strategy.
Accurately shoot, and it's gorgeous.
And they have another boss here. Yeah, this was smart.
Gorgeous. It's beautiful, and it's likely how the devs...
Look at that. They're just like, look at this. Can you imagine doing this with a pug? Something as simple as lining in an order based on a number. Can you imagine doing this with a pug? Holy shit. It looked like some kind of, like, trapezoid or some shit.
Intended this mechanic to play out when it was designed.
Look at that. That's beautiful right there.
Wonderful decision making.
Like, this is cool. This is what I like. Yeah, definitely Paragon got world first. Method didn't get it. They cheated. FF rating is a different skill. I really want to get back into. I never rated it in Final Fantasy. Actually, I rated, like, the first bad guy, and I try to do, like, when you go back, which I really wish Blizzard would do. We can go back to the old raids at the eye level, at the difficulty, at the skill, like the skills your character has, and it's kind of similar. And I did Garuda, and there's another boss, Titan. I did Titan, and I did Titan probably for like 12 hours with like 4 different groups. And Titan is a hard boss. Even like this is like one of the first raids that ever came out. Like imagine going back to Molten Core with, you know, level 60 talents, with level 60 gear. But it's not Molten Core. That's a bad example. Like imagine go back to I guess like Firelands, or like a pretty hard raid, or maybe Oldar, or maybe I guess let's do Firelands, because Firelands was hard based on that gear, that those talents and everything. And it would still be hard to this day, right? It would still be a challenging fight. Those are hard fights, and doing it on like Mythic, Heroic, whatever the highest level was. That's how Final Fantasy has it, and you can do that in every single raid. You can just go back and do it. Like if that had that in WoW, that'd be so fun. We could do Firelands one day. Oh, we can go back and get that, and we can do that for the transmog, and maybe just for the fun of it. You know, they kind of have that with time walking, like time walking Oldar, but it's a joke. The balancing isn't great. I don't think WoW's ever gonna do this. I know like last expansion that came out with like that. What was it called? Where you can go back and do like the raids that came out during the expansion, like Castle Nathri, for example. And I didn't play that, and I kind of don't know how it was. But I really wish you could do that with WoW. That's like the fun thing with leveling in Final Fantasy. Like I was like level 60, and I was raiding Garuda, or level 50 or something. I was doing raids, and there was actually people that played it. Like there was actually a demand for it. Like people came, and we did Savage, I think, or we did Extreme Garuda, which isn't too difficult of a fight, but I mean we progressed on it. You know, it took like an hour or two, and we downed it. And it was like, I'm not even level capped yet, and I'm raiding, and it's a really fun. Vehicle combat, yeah, and I think that's just because there's just like a lot of people that don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with Oldar, with the vehicles. To be honest, I have no idea what to do.
Coming up with a solution to a problem that isn't just an add-on solving the problem for you. It's great to see. It's really wonderful, and it shows the difference powerful add-ons can make to certain mechanics. One team can basically ignore it, the other team has to come up with a really majestic and poetic way of solving this mechanic. Ultimately, of course, Paragon did not get that world first. They came second on that one, but it was great to see how add-on usage goes in. Again,
well, I would say I credit their world first, or their kill, way more than Method did, right? Because if you have to ignore a major mechanic, obviously you're going to get world first compared to a different guild who has to actually do the mechanic properly. They just ignored it, and they were able to just pump DPS, whereas Paragon did it.
And Blizzard stepped in. They weren't happy, and now you'll know that the radar functionality, for example, is no longer present in raids. What about Star Augur? Star Augur, the add-on developers there, the big brains, managed to come up with a way of nullifying the Grand Conjunction mechanic. Very similar to what happened.
Oh, I don't know what raid this is. I didn't do this at all.
On Archimon Mythic. This, instead of having to players visually look around the room and figure out who they could pair with, find that person, gave you a big, bold, beautiful icon and a place to go so you could go and sort it out yourself. Blizzard was not happy with this.
It just dumbs the mechanic down so much.
Most difficult part of this fight, and you guys are making a mockery of it. So they managed to fix it by making it so that you couldn't attach things to friendly nameplates. And that made it so that that add-on in particular didn't work. Blizzard has some power. Some power they've demonstrated, and you've probably not even noticed it. Let me take you to another add-on. Have any of you ever used a leveling guide in World of Warcraft? And you've probably noticed that an arrow appears on your screen if you've got it installed, and it points you in real time in the direction you need to go.
I love this. Dude, I cannot level without these kind of add-ons. I am so bad at leveling. Even like, I guess retail WoW isn't bad, but dude, if you go back to classic WoW and you try to do quests without an add-on, good luck. Good fucking luck. You'd have to like really read stuff, actually, like read the quest text, look at your map, and really figure it out.
If you turn your head, the arrow will move. If you run in the wrong direction, it will tell you to turn around. It tracks physically where you are in the world. Have you ever seen it in a raid? Some of you old heads will say, yes. Yes, I have. In fact, one of the best examples of this would have been Thaddeus all the way back in vanilla. The arrow system is obviously working. It can be used today for these leveling add-ons. But it also existed in raids.
Wait, this isn't WoW. Wait, what the fuck is this? Is this someone's UI or what the hell is this? This isn't WoW. Is this like RuneScape or some shit? I don't know what this is. This looks crazy. It looks like RuneScape graphics, but it's like a WoW fight. I don't know if this is an add-on or what, but this looks nuts. I had an add-on classic and I was playing with this dude every day. He legit thought I knew everything. Yeah. Dude, I feel like that's big, which isn't really common. I guess that is common nowadays, right? Obviously, people know way more about WoW, but I remember back in the day, I found like, in the community in WoW was so much more tight-knit than it is in retail. But like I was playing, I think, TBC leveling, and I was just talking to this guy, and he taught me so much, just basic stuff, right? Because back in the day, you know, I didn't think about going to the internet or looking anything up. That information wasn't really there, or it was hard to find. You had to find like a magazine. You had to get one of those like magazines, you know, and find out the guides on those magazines. We had to buy those. So just like talking to somebody and telling you like the basics was huge. It looks like Nax. I mean, yeah, it is. It's Nax. It's Thaddeus, but it's.
And it was utilized on several encounters, telling people exactly where to move and to go to. Another example would be the rock boss inside Hellfire Citadel that had the players stand in specific positions so they could be grabbed by the hands coming out of the ground, and it would automatically assign people to the best possible location based on where they were stood, making sure nobody was going to the wrong spot.
That's the thing. I think these kinds of add-ons, I think they get banned, right? They get banned. But I think add-ons in general, they make encounters easier, right? In that regard, I think Blizzard has to design the raids to be harder in other ways. If that makes sense. Like on Taros, for example, the add-on just tells you where to go. When you hit the debuff, it's like, okay, are you gonna go to the left or right in the circle? And it just tells you where to go. That takes out all quick decision making, and it kind of nullifies the mechanic. If everyone in the raid has the weak aura, which in mythic raiding, your guild's going to require weak auras for like most of the fights. So then Blizzard has to make these fights harder in a different way. I don't know how. Maybe like with Ultra or Scepter, whatever the fuck that raid was called. They had to make that raid hard as hell, and it's hard to balance these fights around weak auras. It really is. And I think that's the biggest problem with one of the parts of raiding a WoW now. Is just weak auras kind of solve a lot of the things for you, which makes the fights less rewarding. They really do. Like doing this wouldn't be fun at all. Instead of actually having to figure it out and communicate, the challenge just drops. Like the whole mechanic, the whole challenge, the whole part of the fight just drops. Like imagine if they had this in Elden Ring, right? You go into a fight. What's like the fight? It like tells you when to dodge, right? Okay, there's like an icon. There's a weak aura in Elden Ring. Hit the dodge button right when it pops up on your screen. I feel like, yeah, you'd kill the fight. You would dodge most things because of the weak aura, but it would just be like a lot less rewarding. And that's kind of why I really want to try Final Fantasy raiding out, because it just looks very unique, and it doesn't have add-ons, and I think that would be a fun experience to go in, and obviously the fights, there'd be guides for the fights, but you'd have to do the mechanics yourself. I really want to get into Final Fantasy again, and I might soon, but we'll see.
And then they broke it, but how? Well, Blizzard determined that they could break this one, and it was definitely going to be a problem going forward by making it so that add-on did not work specifically in raids, but would work in the open world. Blizzard does have that power. Okay, so they have the power then, Mike. What you're saying is they can break these things in the raid environment. That can totally happen. So why aren't they doing it with the other things?
I would love to see like Echo or Liquid, just for the fun of it. They like so they do Vault every week, right? I'd love to see them do a full Vault run with no weak auras, like on Mythic. Like imagine doing Razageth Mythic without weak auras. That'd be crazy.
If especially it's causing them stress by having to build much more difficult fights, and as people like Yoshi P are saying, makes things worthless in some people's eyes in terms of boss raid development. And in fact, the limits...
They have it memorized now? Yeah, that's true. I wish they would do like a race to world first without Wikoras. That'd be so hard. Can you imagine?
Patient isn't on probably where they want to draw a line. In fact, I know that after having this discussion with Blizzard when I was there on their campus. Some things they can't fix. What about Queen Ashara? Now, if you don't know about Queen Ashara, and I'm not talking about tracking the debuffs that people got in there, I'm talking about Queen's Decree.
Okay, I didn't do this fight.
Very similar to Stargo. What is Queen's Decree for those people who've not taken part in the Queen Ashara encounter? Queen's Decree is an intermission phase. The boss is untargetable, you've finished with her adds, and you have this dance, FF14 style, that must take place before the fight will continue. It's basically a survive the dance phase. Queen's Decree gives you 2 random debuffs, and they're...
Oh wait, actually I want to show an example. I think you know what fight really made it so easy? Hold up. We got to go back to my council kill. Like Mythic Council. I think there's a clear example here. This is actually a while ago, huh? It was actually a few years ago. Dang, it's been that long. Okay, I can't play the music because I think I put what did I use for music in this video? I forget. I think I put Daft Punk. Was this part? Hold on, there's a weak word here, I think. I don't know why, but like old videos of mine, they take forever to load. What if you just do here? Okay. So yeah, okay, bosses go back. There's also a weak aura right there. Why is this so low quality? Oh wait, no, okay, never mind. Never mind. The light tells you where to go. That's actually in the game. Okay, never mind. I thought that was like maybe a weak aura or something. But like look it up. Look at this right here. Stack for recital. There's so many weak auras here that are used in each fight. Like we can look at Sludge Fist. Sludge Fist is actually a really easy example to look at. This requires weak aura. Like look at this. Okay, so we have weak auras that come out. All right, where we go. So the whole raid gets either a square or a nipple here. And that's basically where you're gonna stack. Can you okay, watch this. This was such a fun fight, man. Okay, and then he slams, and then he does his slam soon. He does the gaze now. Okay, then look at this. Look at everyone has either look at this weak aura. You have a square or a circle or an X, and that's pretty much where you have to where you're gonna stand to absorb the pillars. Now, can you imagine doing without doing this, not having this weak aura? It'd be so hard. You have to do like all this planning before the fight. So they're going there, we're going here. And then you have to absorb these. If you don't absorb these at all, if one of these hits, you all die. So it's such an important mechanic, and the weak aura just tells you exactly where to go.
They're all different every single time you go into that fight. It could be something like Soak and Orb, which are located around the room, and run in a circle. It can be stand still and Soak and Orb. It could be stand with other people and Soak and Orb. It could be stand with other people and don't soak an orb. It could be run around and don't touch any orbs. It could be any variety of touch an orb, stand on your own, keep moving, etc. These 3 variables that get alternated between. Now then, very quickly, people came up with an add-on which simply told you in big, giant letters exactly what you needed to do, and you never had to learn the debuffs whatsoever. And it needed a little bit of setup. This required, in fact, 2 weak auras to achieve. You would have everybody use 1 weak aura, and then the commander use another one that would assign the instructions out. And also, you had to place world markers out in the world in a very specific spot, so it married up to the information the weak aura was going to tell you.
Wow.
And essentially, this nullifies that mechanic like we've seen in the past.
That's such a difficult mechanic, too. And like that's the thing, a lot of these mechanics that the weak auras are helping you out on and solving for you are like the key mechanics of the fight. Like Sludge Fist, that was huge. That was huge. I mean, the fight was still, don't get me wrong, the fight was still extremely challenging with that weak aura. But without that weak aura, that fight would take I don't know, a lot more pulls,
You
a
don't
lot more planning.
have to learn anything. In fact, you just AFK and the game tells you exactly what to do and you just do it and that mechanic is over. That's the same as Star Augur, right, Mike? That's the same as the other things you've talked about so far. Yes. But what can Blizzard do about that? In fact, why was that not disabled while things like Star Augur were disabled? Why things like Rock Chaos were disabled? Why was that? Well, it comes down to what can Blizzard actually do? And where does this information come from? If we look at some of the more egregious weak auras we've seen recently, such as Anduin, for example, Echo's Anduin one, or the Jailer one, simply assigning you specific holes to jump in so that nobody duplicates or overlaps, very similar to what we've seen in Queen Ashara, for example, with Queen's Decree. Can't they just disable that? No. The interesting thing about these add-ons is they actually just pull a lot of this information from the combat log.
Okay.
The combat log is all that is necessary in order to...
Yeah, the combat logs actually, if you really go in depth with the combat log says everything, what's going on, not only to you, but to everyone in the raid.
Generate what visually appears to us as very, very powerful tools. It's not really possible to raid without the combat log. Without the combat log, you can't figure out what you were hit by, how much damage it does, how is it being divided, what type of damage it is, what went wrong. We can't log anymore. You can't use things like details. You can't use...
Yeah, so they're like in a crossroads here. There's no like middle ground, I feel like. Either they have to ban add-ons, or certain like add-ons, or they have to allow them. I don't know. Because if it runs off the combat log you can't get rid of, right? You can't really change that. That's part of the whole game. Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of torn. I like add-ons. I use a lot of add-ons. We use weak auras. Like, dude, I got this Mythic Plus weak aura package, and I don't know anything about... I've learned a lot over the past few weeks, but when I first started doing Mythic Plus this season, I went in blind. I wasn't in a guild. Usually with Mythic Plus, you play with guilds, they go over the fights, you know, you have a set group of people, and someone knows what they're doing, and they can explain everything to you. I have to plug everything now. I'm not in a guild. And I got a weak aura pack, 2 weak aura packages that literally tell me what to enter. And Plater, I have Now's UI. It tells me what I should interrupt, when to interrupt. It tells me when a frontal comes out on like a mob that could kill me. It says when to use a defensive. It tells me when to soak. It tells you everything. And I feel like it makes the game a lot easier, obviously. Like, I'm able to push like 22 keys, no problem. I can be 3k IO just from that weak aura. Obviously, you still have to perform, but it just tells you exactly what to do. It doesn't tell you everything. There's like a lot of hidden things with Mythic Plus. Like, for example, in Ruby pools, on the trash before the second boss, you can, when you have like the big fire soak, you can bring that to the mobs and it knocks them up. I didn't know that. That's something I kind of had to learn throughout, people telling me and everything. But it just tells you everything. It just tells you everything. It's crazy. You're gonna be pushing 30 keys when the change happens? Dude, if they got rid of weak auras, I think... Dude, I think fucking the top key would be maybe like an 18. If they got rid of like all add-ons, dude, the average key would be like 4 or 5 lower. I feel like the average... It would just be a disaster, man. Weak aura, like add-ons, especially weak auras, are just so broken.
Damage meters. God bless telling people they can't use damage meters anymore in World of Warcraft. While it is a...
Oh my god, I really wish they... Oops. I really wish they would get rid of damage meters in WoW. It's so annoying. People have such a parse mentality. Even on progression and mythic rating, people are just like, all they care about is parsing. I'm just like, dude, we haven't even killed the boss yet. It gets in the way so much.
Never has been. While it is a thing in Final Fantasy XIV, at least for some, it is not a thing in World of Warcraft and never has been. It's a staple of the game. And there are many, many more add-ons that simply track what's going on in the combat log, including your nice fancy UI, which tracks your debuffs and things, is all being pulled from the combat log. All that information, all those add-ons that simply change how your game looks, simple, innocent information is all pulled from the combat log, which means...
I think it's too late for Blizzard to change add-ons. They can't ban add-ons, now that I think about it. You know the backlash the community would do if they get rid of add-ons? It's just too late. Like Final Fantasy, they banned add-ons from the start, so that's how the game is played. and therefore the whole raiding environment and dungeons and everything it's going to be different. Like Blizzard kind of just has to accept that, yeah, add-ons have been part of this game since 2004. It is part of the game now. It's been almost 20 years. It's kind of the identity of the game in some regard. So you can't just ban that. I mean, maybe they could. They could try it, but I think it'd be really controversial. I don't know what people would feel like.
As long as the combat log exists, so do these add-ons. Now, Blizzard has some things they can do, as I've just pointed out in this video. And I'd love to see your suggestions on it. In fact, many of you will probably instantly say, I can raid without a damage meter. That's no problem. I raid with default UI. It's no problem to me. I'm sure it is for many of you, not a big issue, but for many...
I feel like the damage meter is actually... It's a useful tool. Like, I don't know how it is in Final Fantasy. Like, how do you know if someone's good in Final Fantasy 14? You have to look at either you have to have a damage meter, or you have to look at like Final Fantasy 14 logs, which is like Warcraft logs for Final Fantasy, I think. And like, if you're in a guild, how do you like find people that are good? Like, if you're in a dungeon, how do you find out a problem? Like, is someone interrupting? Because not only does details show you damage, it shows you their interrupts, the kicks, people's deaths, how they died. It shows healing done. It shows you everything you kind of need to see like what the problem is, right? Like in Final Fantasy 14, if like imagine doing a Mythic Plus without damage meters or without Raider IO or anything, how the hell would you find people? Say there's a problem. Say like the tank is just like not stunning, or no, say like you have like a damaged person that's doing like 10k damage. So they're pretty much AFK. They're like doing the rotation and everything, but they're messing up so bad, they're doing like 10k DPS. Like you wouldn't really know. You wouldn't really know. I feel like what the problem is. Like, why is everything dying so slow? So I feel like Final Fantasy 14, it's kind of hard to differentiate other players based on damage and even healing. And I think there's a factor of competitiveness involved with that. And I think it's kind of healthy too. Obviously, it's unhealthy in most pugs, but like when you're competing with other players to do top damage, it's fun. I'll be honest, it's fun. I'm a competitive person, and all the games I play, pretty much. When I was doing Slutress and I was raiding a Mythic, if I wasn't the best hunter, I was upset. I was like, fuck, I gotta come back next week. I gotta, learn better. I gotta maybe like maximize my rotation a little bit more, or figure out cooldown usage, and vice versa. But so I actually do like details. I just think the community has a negative attitude towards it, and they just look at, oh, you're doing less damage, you suck at the game. And I'm guessing that's why it's banned in Final Fantasy 14.
Many more, it certainly would be an issue, including myself. I do think weak auras have got a little out of hand, but at the same time, I don't want to raid without a damage meter, and I don't want to raid without a nicer UI. I don't really want to do that. And a lot of these things use basic information, which means
I have the same
changing
attitude.
one thing snowballs and butterflies and breaks things that are completely innocent and unnecessary.
Like, I've been playing WoW with add-ons the whole time I've been playing WoW. So not having add-ons would just feel awful. Whereas Final Fantasy, like most people don't play with add-ons.
To be changed, and in fact, usually a pretty damn good quality of life change for many, many players. When talking to Blizzard about this, they simply said it's a problem for them to solve. And Blizzard has proved this. They've created several bosses in recent memory where add-ons just weren't a big deal. Halondrus is probably the best example. Despite outside raid leaders, tech teams that both Liquid and Echo were using, and having all these people be at calls, and weak aura designers, and add-on designers, and all these kinds of things, they couldn't really help with that fight. The mechanics of it were actually very simple, just very difficult to execute. Now, the counter to that is, of course, it became one of the, if not the most nerfed boss in history.
Really?
How difficult it was. So there's some balancing and fine-tuning there. But it did prove quite easily that you can make bosses that don't rely on add-ons to achieve. And in fact, it's very arguable that these weak auras, such as the jailer dropping in the holes, aren't a big deal in the first place, and the players could easily do it. And we could look at the same as the Anduin one, with Scripe famously saying it took us 3 months to design this Anduin weak aura, and Liquid didn't, and it wasn't a problem because they just YOLO'd it and it was fine. A lot of times, these add-ons that look fantastical and crazy and all those kinds of things.
That's the crazy thing about high-end rating. They literally have programmers like on the team to just program weak auras for them. Like, that's someone's job. That's crazy. That's where I think, it gets a little out of hand.
Are all manageable without in a decent way. but it definitely does cause some issues when they get out of hand, and that's where Blizzard likes to draw the line with their boss designs to go for.
Yeah,
but
that's
just
true. A lot of stuff happens with weak auras. Like, a lot of times, like, like, they'll do the fight, especially, like, probably on, like, the PTR and, like, the beta, when they're, like, testing out these fights on the PTR, they're like, oh, yo, let's get a weak aura for that. And they can go in and plan it, but then, like you said, on the fly changes. There could be maybe a change Blizzard didn't say in the balance, like on the PTR, maybe it's different. Oh, we need to change this. This mechanic works a little differently. These values are different. This timing is different. We need to change this weak aura. So, like, it's crazy how important weak auras are in like race to world first rating.
Mind, just turning add-ons off might seem simple enough, but honestly, it has a snowball effect.
Like, I am using Echoes. I'm using Echoes, weak auras. For Vault of the Incarnates, and they make the games, like, the fight so much easier. Like Razageth, like, there's literally, like, someone doing a breath, like like that sound effect is literally in when the boss is about to do, like, the pushback. It's someone taking, like, a big breath. There's, like, things to tell you what to do. It's, again, like, it makes the fight so much easier. It's crazy. Even after doing them, like, all the time, I'm used to that now. I know exactly when to stand in that pool from the bombs because of those weak auras. Obviously, there's a timer too, but just having that, like, sound effect, that weak aura, just makes it a little easier to, like, follow.
Effect that you need to consider. I personally would kind of like to try it out. I like it. It's fun. Everything I do in Final Fantasy XIV involves no add-ons, and I do everything blind, and I have the greatest of times.
Yeah.
I don't feel that way when I go to World of Warcraft. I'd be interested to see what you guys think. I want to give a massive shout out and thank you to weak auras for helping us with a lot of information in this video, and of course, Just Wait for filling in a lot.
That was a fantastic video. They had footage from old fights. I learned a lot based on the history. That was a really informative video, honestly. I really enjoyed watching that. Because I didn't raid during a lot of these fights, and I didn't even know, like, this part right here, like, this was crazy. This was the world's first kill, and there were two different guilds. One was doing it properly, Paragon, and then Method, they just had an add-on. That's how they got world first, I'm guessing. Maybe the result would have been different if they, if it was banned. So it's crazy how much add-ons have advanced over the years.